You can buy so many different products or do so many different treatments, but you have to have a good strategy. If you go in without a really good strategy, you probably won't achieve your goals and see the results. I want everyone to be successful with their skin.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips. As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. I am so excited to announce that our holiday sale is now live. If you have been considering becoming a Pathway member and aren't a member on either platform yet, now is a great time to sign up because we have launched our discount spinner sale. You can spin the wheel on our site for a chance to lock in some of our lowest rates of the season. If you're already a Pathway member and your membership is up for renewal soon, aka you signed up around this time last year via our sale, keep an eye out for an email with some special offers for your renewal. Any members who are mid-term on their membership, still on Teachable, you can continue to keep an eye out for emails with instructions on how to move over at your same rate to our new platform. And just a reminder to you guys, we have a brand new platform that has an app. You can save all of your deep imaginings offline. So if you go off the grid, if you're traveling this holiday season, you can listen to them anywhere on the go. You can create a schedule. You can add calendar reminders when you want to do certain workshops. It keeps you super, super accountable. And our new community group is also found within the app. And a lot of you have been asking, but yes, we are doing a manifestation challenge again this year. The pre-week is kicking off the week of November 28th, where we're going to really kind of get clear, take inventory of the past year, and really make a commitment to ourselves of what we want to get out of the challenge. And then the challenge will officially kick off on December 5th. So you're going to get really clear on a specific manifestation you want to call in, and we will take you step by step for finding the expanders for it, really understanding your blocks related to that specific manifestation, taking that aligned action, following your pings. It's going to be incredible. It's going to lead us through December and into January, and we'll be holding your hand the entire time. We intentionally crafted it to be the most effective challenge yet, while also being mindful that everyone is probably needing a lot of rest and restorative nature during this time. So don't worry, you will have time for both. We're so excited to kick this off. So if you're not in the Pathway yet, make sure to sign up before Monday, November 28th. And don't forget, we have our discount spinner sale available now, where you can sign up for our lowest rates of the season. On today's episode, we are diving into part 2 of Holistic Skincare with Kristina Holey, a mini masterclass. Kristina Holey is a holistic skincare specialist dedicated to furthering the understanding of skin and its relationship to the rest of the body. She's a scientist by trade and applies that experimental approach to both her skincare treatment and product development. She joined the Marie Veronique team full-time in 2021. In her role as Director of Skin Health, she's helping leading the brand's existing product offerings to be the cleanest and most holistic for the skin and body. In part 1, Lacey and Kristina dove into advice on treating adult acne, rosacea, eczema, and other skin conditions, topical product recommendations from Kristina, specifically around retinol, vitamin C serums, proper vitamin and supplementation use, sun damage prevention and sun guidance, gut health and its relationship to your skin. But in part 2, Lacey and Kristina are going to dive into different skincare approaches at different phases of your life, from your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. They also cover food and diet recommendations that are best for your skin, understanding what is worth the hype for the at-home treatments versus a specialist treatment, red light therapy, the pros and cons of botox, injectables, fillers, regimens while pregnant, and the importance of good sleep hygiene. Between part 1 and part 2, you are getting a full comprehensive guide of anything you want to know under the sun of holistic skincare. So if you're ever struggling or curious or wanting to test out a new approach, be sure to come back here and listen in on Kristina's tips from a holistic skincare perspective. And for Black Friday, Marie Veronique is having their big Black Friday sale. So stay tuned for their sale. We will link in show notes.
And now a word from our partners.
As you know, we are huge fans of Bon Charge, formerly Blue Blocks, over here at To Be Magnetic. And since we are diving into all things beauty, I wanted to share some of my favorite beauty-focused items from Bon Charge. So one of them you've heard me talk about before is their ice roller. You've probably seen ice rollers everywhere right now, and it's so funny. There's this one story going around with Jennifer Aniston, how she dunked her head into a bucket of ice before shoots or before shooting on film, and it really helped her skin. And that's exactly what this ice roller is doing, sans the watery ice cube bucket. On the mornings that I'm waking up super puffy or I want my skin to tighten and just look super glowy that day, I will just take the ice roller gently over my face, and it really depuffs, tightens my pores, and makes my skin look incredible. The second item that I absolutely love, and I kind of fell off using it regularly, but I got a facial and they highly, highly recommended the red light therapy specifically for sunspots. So Bon Charge actually has a couple different products in this realm. They have the Bullet, which is just like a little handheld spot treatment, red light and infrared light therapy, the Mini, which is the one I'm going to share with you guys, the Demi, and the Max, which gives you your full body red light protection. And they even have the Super Max. Oh my gosh, look at this. So the Mini is actually my favorite because it's portable. It covers my entire face. I put on the little goggles that they have, and I just hunker in on different spots on my face for about 10 to 20 minutes. But it has super, super strong red light therapy. So this device emits the most bioactive frequency in red light and near infrared for your optimal treatment. If you haven't heard of red light therapy treatments before, it has been shown in peer-reviewed studies and clinical trials to help improve skin's appearance, help in sleep, arthritis, help with wrinkles, speed up muscle recovery, and even help with mild acne. I found it to be so effective to just lighten some of the sunspots. I was definitely someone who was a sun child in my teen years, even putting baby oil all over me at the beach, which now I can't wait to slather on sunscreen. But this really helps even out my skin tone and helps some of the aging due to sun damage. When I'm on a regular routine with using this device, it makes such a difference. And the Mini is really affordable compared to some of the massive $1,000 red light treatments that are on the market. And you can use code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, for 15% off your order. Again, that's Magnetic, MAGNETIC. And you can go to boncharge.com or check out the link in our show notes. I also want to note for this weekend only, Bon Charge is having their huge Black Friday sale where you can get even more off. I believe it's 25% on their products. So be sure to check that out for this weekend only as well.
All right, on to the episode. Okay, well, that leads us in. And I swear, everybody, this is going to get really fun because we're going to go through like actual regimens for different types of things. But before we do that, you've touched on it so many times. I've heard it so many times, especially from estheticians when I laser, they're like, be careful of your, the skin barrier. Let's talk about that and the importance, even though we've highlighted it a little bit.
Yeah. So, the skin is the body's front line of defense. It's what protects the internal body from our external environment. And so that's what our skin barrier is. It's these different layers of different components which make up this protective shield. And there's a lot of different things involved. There's the acid mantle, which regulates the pH balance. There's, the hydration components, water balance, moisture balance. There's the lipid layer. And all of that sort of makes up this ecosystem in which bacteria can exist within and thrive or not thrive. Also, what's important about the barrier of the skin is the dermal epidermal junction. You can think of this kind of as a mattress. And, as I'm saying this, I'm like shoving both of my fists together.
Good visual.
Yeah. So it's like that junction is hugely important on the structure of the skin, overall appearance, wrinkles, fine lines. It starts to break down as we age. And it's also what separates external environment, chemicals, toxins, pollen, dirt from the immune system. So if you have this compromised barrier function and kind of leaky skin, then you have access to the immune system and sensitization and inflammation and all the unwanted symptoms that we don't want. So it's very, very important to respect this barrier layer, to want to promote a strong epidermal dermal junction so that the immune system can just sit back and be chill, because then you won't have all these symptoms showing up, manifesting at the skin surface.
And what are the biggest threats? Lasers, we've mentioned, that can really affect exfoliating, or disruptors, I guess.
So it's basically things that take away. Also, preservatives. That's a big one that I care a lot about because it's the same as preservatives in our food. It kills really, really important bacteria that have very important jobs to do all day long. So if you are not cautious of what preservatives are in your products and you're applying them all day long, you will have a very weakened microbiome of the skin. And that can be really problematic because that can allow for takeover of certain pathogens and end up with unwanted symptoms as well. So, we think of the barrier layer as this really kind of complex system with all these different components. And you can't just prioritize one part. You need to think of it all as a system that works together, and the microbiome are a really, really important part of it. And so lasers will disrupt the microbiome as well as the barrier structure itself. It does not mean you cannot repair from that. The body is super smart, wants to heal. The skin wants to heal. Get a laser, your system will respond properly and you'll be fine. I just really stress to any of my clients who want to do a laser treatment, just make sure you're in good shape before. Make sure you have healthy skin, you have a healthy barrier layer, healthy microbiome. Do the laser, and then you can recover with a really smart regimen so that all the nutrients are there so the skin can recover, and then you'll be great. But if you go into a laser treatment with compromised, inflamed skin, you're stressed out, your internal immune system is off, maybe you've got, you're prone to cold sores, or you get strep throat a lot, or sinus infections. You go in for a laser. In that condition, it's going to be problematic. There'll be a lot of unwanted side effects that come with that. So, it's not that the lasers are bad. It's just that you want to take it seriously and think about exactly what it's doing and making sure that you're setting the skin up for success.
That makes sense. That makes me feel less black and white about it. As someone who does it like once a year, usually in the fall or winter, although I've kind of made this commitment to myself, I've been like, maybe in the future again, but right now I just really want to see what I can do internally and topically.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not anti-lasers at all. I've worked with people where they've, with really severe acne scars, and you're like, yes, do the laser. Let's heal your skin. Let's get rid of the acne and then do the laser so you don't have to live with the scarring. So that's a great thing that they can provide for the skin. And also, people hate hyperpigmentation. The one thing I'll say about that is you have to be really realistic about your lifestyle and your environment. I'll have a girl come to me and say, I've got melasma, hyperpigmentation. I want to do this laser. And we'll get into her lifestyle and she'll be like, what brings me joy is surfing. And I'm like, well, I want you to keep having joy. So I want you to keep surfing, but you can't do this laser then. It just doesn't make sense for you. And you're going to end up actually in much worse shape if you're, out in the ocean after doing a laser treatment. So being realistic is important.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I get into the heavy lifters that people are curious about, Botox,
Yeah.
I really want to talk about the holistic approach to a couple of these concerns or preventatives, and then how to look at them in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. Or maybe we even kind of talk about that first. Like you said, in your 20s, the one thing you should be concerned about is, sun. And then moving into 30s, 40s, 50s, because obviously the biggest things everyone's asking is like wrinkles, collagen in the last in which we've touched on, and droopiness, et cetera. So let's talk about the approach, your skincare regimen, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond.
Yeah. So when you're in your 20s, your skin is working or should be working really well. It's turning over every 28 to 30 days. The repair system is happening. The cell signaling is good. You're on schedule. You're on track to make enough collagen. So that's why I said the one thing you want to do is protect against the main cause of wrinkles and visible signs of aging is the sun. So in your 20s, I would do a vitamin C serum. I would do a really nice complex blend of oils that's going to keep your skin nourished and moisturized, protected. I would pay attention to the pH balance of your skin and just making sure you're providing the nutrients of the acid mantle so that it can be regulated, because that is going to regulate the microbiome and keep your skin looking healthy, keep you resilient to acne or rosacea, dermatitis. As we age, that diversity of the microbiome declines. There's a couple other things that can influence that as well. So we want to, in your 20s, really work on having a robust, healthy microbiome. You could use a retinol in your 20s. So we have the more mild, gentle form, gentle retinol night serum. So that's with vitamin C as well. Use that nightly. And that's going to, just make sure that things are working as they should. And it's going to help with the repair process. That's what I would do in my 20s. Protect and make sure that you're getting the right nutrients, because we will see a lot of signs of aging later on if the skin has been deprived of essential nutrients. And this could be from an overly restricted diet, especially imbalance of fats and certain nutrients. So you want to make sure you're thinking about the way that you're eating to really nourish the body. You want to eat in a way that is going to provide for really healthy, strong blood to carry all these nutrients to the skin so that they can be utilized.
On a side note on that, what are your favorite fats? I know everybody's different and everybody's healing is different, et cetera, or their homeostasis is different. But what are your favorite fats you love for skin across the board?
Yeah, well, you want to think about a good balance of omega-3 to omega-6. Both are really important. If you are someone that is more prone to breakouts and congestion, has kind of like a thicker, more viscous oil production, you're going to want to incorporate more omega-6. That will help thin out the sebum you produce and help reduce congestion in the skin and make the skin feel less greasy. Sunflower seed oil is a good example of that, safflower seed oil. If you have more dry skin or more prone to inflammation, then you want to go a little bit heavier on omega-3s, gamma-linoleic acid. That'll help bring down or mitigate inflammation and help nourish the skin.
And in food, Is that fish? And I always get the 3s and the 6s mixed up.
It's fine. So in food, it's interesting because it works a little differently. And people often get confused with that because I'm like, more omega-6 on your skin. And they're like, what? Omega-6 in my body is inflammatory. That doesn't make sense. But so internally, I suggest try to shoot for a 1-to-1 ratio. So we have omega-3s, like sardines and mackerel and salmon and eggs and beef. Those are great examples of omega-3, really, really important. Omega-6, nuts. We'll have a breakdown of all these different EFAs as well, but almonds are more dominant in omega-6 than 3. It's not like you need to get out a calculator, but you do want to think about it, especially if you're like vegan, vegetarian. It's a little bit more difficult to get the right balance. And you can tell, you're like, am I feeling more dry? Maybe I need to boost my cod liver oil. There's different vegan, vegetarian supplements for omega-3 as well. But good brain food also makes you feel happy. It's important to think about your fat intake, and also, as redundant as this sounds, that you're able to break down fats, because a lot of people that I work with can't. And then your skin really, really suffers.
Wow, that's where I need to consult with you after this, because I'm still so dry, but I eat so much of that. So that's where it's interesting. We'll have to book a consultation.
Well, Lacey, what I'm hoping when I saw your initial regimen and with what I kind of wrote for you, in my brain, I was like, that dryness could go away or be significantly reduced once you reach a state of barrier balance.
Got it.
And so if we can bring down inflammation, mitigate the impact from your LA environment, promote barrier balance, especially with that new retinol, then you might actually feel a lot more comfortable.
Great. So that's the first. That's the keep on keeping on.
But we can talk about some other internal stuff that you can push there that can help as well. So
fantastic. Okay. So that we got into 20s, which is really important. What about, I think 30s is where all the shit starts, right?
Yes. Especially if you decide to have a baby.
Totally. Oh boy, the sleep, the everything.
Yeah, I 1 year out, I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah.
just from a vanity perspective. But,
same.
But yeah, after 35, major decline. We see it in women's fertility. We see it in skin function as well. It's, across the board. That's when the entropy starts to speed up a little bit. So you can implement that 20-year-old regimen all the way up till 35, I would say. And then at 35, you want to make some changes. That was really why we came out with this newer retinol, is because we need something a little bit more intensive, something that's going to really address all the different layers of the skin, how we can feel nourished, moisturized, and hit the retinoic acid receptors a little harder, have a little bit more stimulation, get into these senescent cells, repair, bring down inflammation. So a good regimen, all that being said, would be, again, vitamin C. You always have to have vitamin C. I would probably also bring in the Barrier Restore Serum, because we're going to see a decline in the structure of the skin. You're more prone to dryness after 35. So Barrier Restore Serum, we make that for that very reason, to restore moisture balance to the skin, help it feel good and comfortable. And then you want a good oil. I'm a fan of using oils for moisturizers for a couple reasons. You don't have to have the same preservative systems because there's no water. Anytime you have a lot of water in a product, you have to have a lot of preservatives.
And just to clarify, you're saying oil over cream.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Exactly. And then to make a cream, you have waxes and pastes. And if you just use an oil blend versus a cream, then you get to avoid that, and we can get into problems if we're using occlusives on the skin. It can actually result in a dependency and more dehydration over time. Whereas if you use an oil, it really integrates into the skin nicely. It helps with the self-cleansing process. So you have, more clarity in the pores, less risk of congestion. And, ideally it's an oil that matches up with the skin's natural lipid layer. So it can act, in a biomimetic way, satisfy any nutritional deficiencies and create really nice, comfortable skin. So after 35, that's when you might need this extra serum, Berry Restore serum, or the soothing B3 with hyaluronic acid, and then a nice, more rich oil blend, something with more omega-3 or gamma-linoleic acid, or something with ceramides. We make Barrier Lipid Complex. It's under the Kristina Holey line, and that has a lot of nice kind of barrier enhancing properties. And then you'll want to use a more intensive retinoid. So you could use a prescription retinoid, or you could use our new one, which is multi-retinol night emulsion. So that has 3 different retinols in it. It's a little bit more comprehensive. All of them work together synergistically to kind of bolster retinol within the skin. So it has more of a chance to make an impact. If you're using retinol all along, it's for the long game. So then you know that you're getting consistent input to the fibroblasts, consistent waste removal, and just skin function will be so much healthier overall. Let's see, good sunscreen. Acid mantle is just as important as we age also. There's a lot of research showing that, if you can keep the skin more in the acid range, around like 4.5 pH, that will help with premature signs of aging. So you definitely want to be cautious that your skin doesn't become too alkaline. So using a tonic that will not only change the pH, but also introduce really important nutrients that will help the skin find its balance on its own. Because the skin's really good at doing that. It does it all day long. It's just adjusting, but it needs to have the right components to carry that out. And then, if you're wanting to do a little bit more, you could start to integrate facial acupuncture, which has a really nice way to stimulate the skin, increase blood flow, nutrient delivery. You could do that a few times a year. I won't get too much into treatments, but you could start down the road of lasers, and, there's some at-home devices, LED, things like that. After 35, because we have the decline in production, that's when you can incorporate the stimulation. I do not suggest really looking into stimulation in your 20s and early 30s, because there is a lifespan. If you stimulate, you're going to end up at a faster place with a bunch of old cells.
And you're talking about things like microcurrent, red light, those are very stimulating.
Yeah. All of those are great. They work. But you just want to be smart about it, because the last thing we want is to get to this place of old functioning cells faster. And when you're in your 20s, you don't need to stimulate. That's not the answer. Protection is the answer. But after 35, you can start to stimulate. And if you stimulate while using retinol, which is going to take away those old cells, you'll have much more success.
And let's talk about those for one sec, since we're at the after 35 range. But red light therapy, let's talk about which ones you actually find to be the most effective, or what's a fad. And so some of the ones that, for instance, I incorporate a lot, every 3 weeks, I get a microcurrent facial, though I do hear a lot, be careful because it could create atrophy. So your thoughts on microcurrent? And then a big question a lot of people asked is, do you find at-home devices to actually be effective like NuFace?
Yeah, so I do like microcurrent. I think it's a really wonderful alternative to like a facelift. I think the results are great. It's safe. I don't know what it does to the microbiome of the skin. There's not really any research there, so that's a question mark. Whether or not it will lead to atrophy, I think you would have to do it a lot to get there. You would start at 18 years old and do it every, so I think for you, it's definitely a treatment I would suggest you do, because I think you'll like the results. The NuFace, which is the at-home device for microcurrent, or the zip device, those work. They make an impact on the skin, but it's something that you have to do basically every day and forever to see that. So I like the zip or the NuFace if I'm going to an event, or if I want to do something extra for my skin. There's, a little tightening effect, a lifting effect. it's instant gratification. I don't see it the next day. It's, right before a party or something. Like I think of the devices, at-home devices, more as, accessories, not really overall skin structure. My two questions about the at-home devices that I've thought about is like, how is this interfering with my thyroid? That's such a finicky gland and you're putting this right on your neck. I don't know if that's a good thing, but who knows? And then also like, what is this doing to those delicate bacteria on my face? So there's a lot of different products that are suggested to use with them, but pay attention to the ingredients in those products. You could use aloe vera gel or something instead, and that could feel fine. You could also use a serum or a different masks. But again, I'm pretty strict about preservatives, so I would be cautious about what gel or product I'm using with that.
That's great. What about, I notice a difference when I use it. I have the Celluma Pro, which everyone's told me is if you're going to have an at-home red light device, and in beauty, they've all said this is the best you can use. What are your thoughts on the red light therapy past 35 to stimulate, and how often?
I also have that one. That's the one that has the best research behind it, where you can kind of be like, all right, I think this is how it works. And they've done a lot of work on their panels. So I suggest this to Luma as well and see positive results from that. With red light, a good device will have an impact, but you also want to think about cadence, right? So you don't want to get the Celluma and use it every day. You want to think about, okay, how old am I? So if you are 35 years old, maybe a good cadence for you would be once a week or twice a week for 10 weeks and then pause for a few months, right? So you're stimulating. You're using all these good products. You're getting vitamin C into your skin so you can make the new collagen. You're using retinol so you can do the repair and then back off and let your skin have a break. If you're, 65, 70, you can handle more stimulation, but your repair system is a lot slower. So that's when it gets a little confusing because you're like, well, I need all the stimulation, but I don't want to end up with an accumulation of all these skin cells that are going to mess up the whole skin system. Also, your microbiome is it's not in optimum health. Your skin's a little bit more dry. So it really depends on who you are, but you want to ask these questions. What's the state of my skin? How old am I? How fast am I repairing? And go lean towards moderate. If you're in your 20s and you want to use the red light, use it really for skin healing. Like I suggest it to my clients who have acne, who will get like a big cystic breakout every once in a while. That will make the healing process so much faster and help with the reduction of scarring. I don't use the blue lights for acne because I don't like to influence the microbiome by killing bacteria. I don't believe that's the most effective way to resolving acne, but I do like the red light for promoting healing and reducing inflammation. So just a little clarification there. There is a new product on the market. It is called the Lima laser, and it is a red light device, and it apparently has technology where it goes a little bit deeper than something like the Celluma. And I have been trying it now for about a month, and I will say I see more effects from that.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen like a really big result in tightening of skin pores, really big result in reduction of hyperpigmentation, which is cool.
I'm like Googling now to buy.
It's a cool product. I'm excited about it. It's more expensive, so I don't want people to feel like they have to have that. But if you're toggling between like going and having a really expensive laser treatment or, resurfacing thing, then this could be a good option for you because there's no downtime.
Wow, that's so, and at home, that's so interesting. Something like this, I'm sure it gives you a recommendation, but what would you say past 35 if one were to get this and use it?
Yeah, so I'm 38 and I used it every day for like a week and a half for like 15 minutes to do a full impact. And now I'm using it once every 3 or 4 days. And I'm going to kind of phase out and use it once a week and then pause and see if any of these results are long term. I'm like you, I'm very dry. So I'm using it as kind of a penetration enhancer as well.
Once you put everything on.
Yeah. So I
Got
put
it.
everything on and then use it. And I really like it for that. And it seems to be, postpartum, your skin gets all weird. And anytime I feel like I might be breaking out, I've been using it there and it completely takes the inflammation away, which is great.
Wonderful. Okay, done. While we're on this, because then we'll move into, past these stages of, your protocol for skin. But what about things like PRP?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of clients that love it and see good results. It's just intense.
It's so intense. I did it once. And I've only had Botox once. I tried it once when I was 27 and I didn't really see a big difference. And then I have since learned a lot and we'll get into that. So I don't mess with anything there, but I did see great results and just curious of your input.
Yeah, I will say that my clients that do that regularly have really great skin. It's a treatment that is a little too intensive and advanced for most of my clients, and it doesn't have much to do with inflammatory conditions. Like I wouldn't advise that. I'm not up to speed on the research around it, but in terms of fine lines, it does work really well.
And then let's just get into injectables in general while we're here. So neurotoxins in general, I'm way too sensitive. I don't mess with fillers. I don't mess with Botox, but I do know a lot of people are curious about this. So pros and cons, and is there, or maybe PRP is there a clean or safe injectable out there that doesn't have some of the backlash and everything we're learning about the toxicity of Botox and fillers?
That's a good question. There are people who are saying there is. I have yet to feel convinced or confident that there is. I personally stay away from those, mostly though, because I don't love the result. The world of injectables and Botox is complicated because it's really a slippery slope and it's a commitment. So you can go into it saying, oh, I hate these 11s, these lines between my eyes. I just want to get rid of those. But then really quickly, your brain is going to start to communicate differently to different muscle groups. You're going to need to do the Botox in different areas. You might end up with wrinkles in different parts of your face that you would never have. You might see kind of droopiness or heaviness over the upper eyelids. It's interesting. So you want to be cautious. I would say delay it as long as possible because you don't want to start that at 20 years old. And we don't know what the impact on the internal body really is. And we don't know how that will affect your particular skin. And you also want to think about aesthetics, right? And like what beauty means to you and what that looks like. And for me in particular, I am really drawn to expression and movement in the face and like variation in tone and color. And that reads health and vitality to me. So when I don't see any of that, I'm not biologically attracted to that person in the same way. So that's not my area of interest or focus, I guess. But I think that there is enough research on Botox where most doctors are like, it's relatively safe. Depends on your metabolism, how fast it's going to move through your body, depends on how sensitive you are. I think I'm probably like you and it would probably have a negative impact on me, but everybody's really different. So it's not that it's bad. I think you really want to think about it. You want to think about what it's going to do and the long-term impact. And is it really aligned with what's going to make you feel the most beautiful?
And on the safe route, at least with PRP, you know how you said you've seen with your clients that they do see with fine lines, they do see a difference. At least you're taking out your own blood and reversing it and putting that back in. It's not a neurotoxin.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone who does want to maybe go down the injectable route, that might be a better place to focus if one is interested, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all of this stuff is expensive. You have to do it every 3 or 4 months. And I'm always like, come on, invest your money in really good products and really good food and maybe some supplements, and then see, and then see if you're happy and you can feel confident, because you might find that you don't need to go down that road.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest, to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership, because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have, and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones.
And as you guys know, we have upgraded to a brand new platform with an incredible mobile app. Be sure to sign up for the new platform in the link in our show notes, and then you can use that login to access the new app. And if you're not in the Pathway yet, make sure to sign up. We have our discount spinner sale for the lowest rates of the season.
Okay, now back to the episode. And even just getting back to the internal piece, just on the Beam protocol, like a really big part of it is eating a tremendous amount of nuts. This whole thing sounds crazy, but it has been really effective. I can see a crazy difference in my skin on a day that I haven't had enough fats.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, and so when one does, in whatever route it takes to get into a more balanced place internally, and then again, like the regimen you put me on, even pre that, when I was using just how I was piecing together Marie Veronique, you just see tremendous results. So I love that. First invest in those 2 things, and then see from there, what is the little bit that you want to work with, or you need to work with, or bothers you. And then even the route of stimulation you were talking about before that I even participate in, again, like the microcurrent or the red lights or the et ceteras, is another place too, before you bypass and just go into injectables and threads we haven't mentioned, but that's another thing I hear a lot of problematic things about from scar tissue. But I see it's just so popular, even amongst such young people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even dabble into that, because that's just like an actual accessory. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That seems crazy to me. Sure, that can have good results, but I have seen a lot of times that it doesn't look good. It's not symmetrical. There's a little string hanging out at one end, and then that turns into an infection. It's, all of these things. You just make sure you choose a really good doctor, a doctor that you like their aesthetic.
One thing I selfishly do want to ask, though, and this is something, because I've always had this in my mind, not the injectable route, not the whatever, doing all of the stimulation and the product and stuff before. But there is a piece of me that's always been like, I do wonder at 50 if I'll do a mini lift, and then like at 75, I'll do a full, and that's about it. Live with the wrinkles I have, but just pull the skin up. There is a piece of me like I see a lot of French women do that.
Yeah, totally.
And they look great, so there is a little bit there that I'm like, that probably will be my route. I'm just going to be straight up.
Yeah, I actually would say that I'm very similar to that, because what you get with that is you still see your skin. There's still expression lines. You still see yourself, but there's like a little bit of fixing up or refinement. The one thing about it, though, is it's a massive surgery.
It is. And recovery.
Yeah. And I was raised by a surgeon. And so I was taught from like day one, do not ever voluntarily go into surgery. And so I just have that little like voice on my shoulder where I'm like, I feel the same as you. I want that because I have friends who are older who've had it done who look amazing. But I'm like, will I ever be able to actually make that choice? I don't
We'll
know.
see. I know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll talk in 20 years
Yeah.
and see.
See where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, those were my big questions on those pieces. But so moving back past 35, what would be the next bracket that you would then suggest different skincare or support for the barrier, et cetera?
Yeah, so I would say like 35 to 50 was maybe that other one. After that, you've gone, if you're a woman, you've gone through menopause. And so you have that influencing skin function as well. The massive, massive shift in hormones has a very drying effect on the skin, kind of similarly to what we see postpartum. Rapid decline in estrogen, way less production of healthy, kind of nourishing fats to the skin. And so, like I was saying earlier, so after 50, then you're kind of worried about the deep skin function stuff. You're worried about mitochondria. You're worried about all of the results of the photo damage from, the past 50 years. You're worried about cell signaling. Just, you want to do whatever you can to repair as fast as you can. And at this point, it's kind of like more is more. So you want a very comprehensive regimen where you are getting a tonic, you have hydrating serums, you have moisture serums, you have antioxidants, you have your retinol, you have a really nourishing ceramide heavy moisturizer, oil blend. Your epidermal layer does start to thicken. Retinol will correct that, but you could bring in exfoliation at this age if your skin is healthy to decrease that thickening effect a little bit. One thing you do have to start to think about, though, is around this age, you become really prone to sensitivity. And this has to do with the decline in diversity of microbiome, but also the decline in skin function. So you don't want to start introducing products with a ton of preservatives and fragrances and sensitizing ingredients. You want to be really careful because a lot of people postmenopausal can end up with all of a sudden adult acne, all of a sudden rosacea, dermatitis, and eczema, and you want to prevent that. And the best way to do that is introducing all these nutrients to promote barrier function, all the nutrients essential for collagen production repair, but in a way that's not going to be too aggressive to the skin or potentially cause allergies, because you need to understand that you're pretty vulnerable at that age.
And so if one is like, oh my gosh, this resonates, yes, they can, based on the customer service you were saying, write into Marie Veronique and say, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on. What would be the best topical regimen for me for products?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and they'll go into lots of detail with you. It's our responsibility, if we're making a product, that we try to make that as successful for you as possible. So use that service, please, because it's free.
Yeah, and amazing. I mean, that's incredible. That's what you get when you work with an esthetician, period.
Yeah.
I literally had my esthetician say, write out exactly what I need to use, what goes before the other, what's my AM and my PM regime. So
Yeah.
if someone wants to write in and say, this is my age, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'd say my goals are, what would I want to use for AM, PM, and in what series of order, how? That they could do that.
Yeah, exactly. And, everyone working in customer service is an esthetician, has lots of experience with working with the skin. I actually was thinking about this the other day because we just launched that new product. And anytime we launch a product, our customer service team just gets like,
Bombarded.
It's crazy. And everyone, is like freaking out. And I'm sitting here like, yes, this is the most fun thing ever, because it's like an area that I feel so proud. I'm like, ask us the hardest question you can come up with. We got you.
Wow.
We just have such a cool team of scientists of, every type that can kind of verify our theories and kind of make sure that you're getting a really good answer. Because it is, again, it's just a really confusing industry. It's so massive.
Well, then I would say the last piece of this, skincare regimen for groups of people, I do think pregnancy and postpartum, they're two different things, obviously, deserve their own bracket because when we're pregnant, we have to stop the retinol, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what would you suggest for that?
Yeah. So when you're pregnant, go hard on vitamin C. And then also, I would do niacinamide, very safe for pregnancy. Those ingredients are very synergistic. People often say, oh no, I can't use them together. And that's not true. They're very synergistic in the skin. You just can't use them in a bottle together. Like if you put B3 and C in a bottle together, the organic chemistry would break down. So it wouldn't be an effective product anymore, but that same degradation doesn't happen in the skin. So use them together. They're both really, really strong antioxidants, will help with hyperpigmentation during pregnancy. I care a lot about pregnancy skin and postpartum skin. I work with a lot of women through this. I wrote a blog post on the Marie Veronique website all about this. And that really, I can spare you guys the details and the science, but it is fascinating what happens to the skin during pregnancy and postpartum. It's amazing. There's so much huge changes, so many huge changes that happen to the microbiome, to diversity, to the acid balance, to the nutrients. And, so I think it's cool to learn about it. So then you can step in and be empowered and kind of compensate for all these changes and come out with success.
Yeah, that's amazing. We'll link that to have. That's phenomenal. Oh, something silly is this is so silly probably, but I do want to know because I've received them and I have them and I'm like, do I use this? What's the real deal on sleeping on silk pillowcases? Does that matter? I'm a side sleeper. Like, am I really going to see any difference or preventative or whatever?
Maybe there's not as much like pulling on the skin.
Okay.
Maybe you won't wake up with the same like creases. People say there's like an antimicrobial effect and pillowcases are the cause of their acne, and that's just not true.
Okay.
Bacteria in our environment isn't what causes acne. It's the absence of bacteria on our skin and then entering an environment that might cause some acne. So, instead of getting rid of all your pillowcases, think about how do we make your skin healthier, and then you won't react to a pillowcase. But I think the silk could be nice for creases.
I see. And so you would say the foundation of Marie Veronique that you guys are really focused on is skin microbiome health, barrier function, and then like a cellular, how would I say that with the retinol and the C's?
Well, I would say it's looking at the real source of aging, which is inflammation. And so how can we utilize topicals to get to the root of inflammation and help with the aging process?
And I think a lot of people don't realize that it is a clean brand.
Well, what does clean mean, right? It's a confusing word out there because so many different brands use it and it means different things because all these brands are very different. So Marie Veronique, as a brand, what we care about is that our ingredients are sourced in a way that we know the whole production chain. We know where they come from and how they're treated. And so we can be confident about how this ingredient is going to impact your skin health, right? We try to make products with very specific preservative systems that respect the microbiome. So we're not trying to kill a bunch of bacteria on your skin or enhance the growth of, but we do want to make sure that there's not mold in the bottle. So we have to use some preservatives, but it should leave the microbiome of the skin alone. So safe for the body and then also safe for the planet. So we're not using a bunch of toxic ingredients that could harm the waterways. Sustainability, all of that stuff, we don't even really mention it much because it's just a given. It's just our responsibility as a brand of having a product out there to make the right choices. We don't use any samples, single-use plastics. We avoid using excess packaging boxes. Our new retinol is a tube and there's no box around it. And that's just to not have that extra paper. So it's a funny world to be part of. I never thought I would be part of the skincare industry, to be honest. And it's cool though. You have a lot of room to be creative. And ultimately, I think what we care about is helping people. So this is just kind of our avenue of doing that.
Amazing. Last but not least, Internally, let's say someone has healthy, normal skin function and they're pretty in homeostasis. What are your, being in the world as long as you've been in and working with people? I even remember when I would read press on you, you were like recommending B. Kvass, et cetera. But like, what are your absolutes to nourish the body and skin eating internally or taking internally? We've touched on a few, but just like in one hyper-focused place.
Yeah, so variety over restriction. That's my biggest complaint with all my clients' diets is that they're not including enough variety, and you need the rainbow, right? Of
Yeah.
all these different vitamins. You need to think that the skin requires a lot of different nutrients to function. And so it's your responsibility to eat those nutrients. So, as cheesy as it sounds, eat the rainbow and eat it in a way that you're going to digest it, calm down, reduce your stress, take deep breaths, chew a lot. Don't drink a nice, huge cup of ice water while you're eating. Eat 3 really good meals a day, have a little bit of break between. I care so much more about the process of eating and whether you're getting all the fundamental nutrients that you need and that you're able to process it rather than specifics. Stay away from packaged foods too, because those are sneaky. People will say, I am such a healthy eater. I only shop at Erewhon, but you're like, but still you have so much packaged processed foods, and so you want to think about that. Just be mindful of your daily intake of foods.
Last thing that we didn't totally touch on beyond acne scars on the face. How do you approach those?
You want to make sure that the tissues stay moist. So you want them to be lubricated. You can use very kind of like simple creams or oils and massage because you want blood flow and you don't want there to be any rigidity when the skin heals. You want delivery of nutrients via the blood, so massage and breaking down of kind of that fascia network, gentle, lots of vitamin C, so the body can make new collagen and heal. Lots of vitamin E. You can do topical vitamin E. That's a good one. Absolutely keep it covered and stay out of the sun. You don't want the sun UV damage on a scar. It'll make it so much stronger and visible. And then once the skin heals, you can put retinol on it.
The other thing I see you mention a lot in your work is lymph circulation, blood for skin, how important that is. I imagine it's really important, of course, to help those old cells get out, et cetera. What are your favorite forms of that beyond working out, which I imagine is a perfect version of that?
Well, it's interesting because I'm kind of a believer that the body knows how to drain lymph, and there's this funny emphasis on it in the world where I've had clients be like, well, my body doesn't know how to drain its lymph. And I'm like, well, why do you think that? That's interesting. And there are conditions like that. But for most people, our body does a good job at kind of regulating the fluids. We need to be very hydrated. That's a really important part. We need to have lots of water in our system to stimulate the movement of the fluids. And then, yes, body movement and exercise. It doesn't have to be vigorous. Go for a little walk, stretch, roll around on the ground, do some jumping jacks. I'm a big bouncer. I like to just bounce around. That makes me feel really good. I think it has a good impact on the nervous system, which will also influence circulation, lymphatic flow. I think the idea is just don't be stagnant. It's really important to incorporate movement, but it doesn't have to be in this form of exercise that we think it does. It doesn't have to be a SoulCycle class every day. It can just be gentle walking, chores, going about your day and being mindful. Of course, there's always dry brushing, which can feel really good. I love self-care and massage. Go get a massage. I love osteopathy. That can have such a good impact on nervous system. Acupuncture is really wonderful at boosting circulation, swimming, hot, cold balance, icy cold shower, that can feel good. Whatever you're drawn to, I think it's important that you like whatever you do. You like the form of exercise you do, and variation, don't do the same thing every day. Incorporate all these different techniques as it feels good.
Agreed. Same, my approach to it all. Love it. Really, really, really validating. Love it. Love it. Any last things to mention? I feel like we covered most of what I've been interested in. I know one thing that I saw tremendous. There was like reversatile. Am I saying that correctly? That people talk about? Like there was this one particular supplement and I would take it and my skin would be like, holy wow.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've accomplished that now in other ways, topically and eating. But I know that there was such a emphasis on it for so long. And you can like eat grapes, right?
Yeah. Antioxidants are great because that's what damages the cells, the DNA, is these free radicals. So antioxidants are very, very important. Skincare industry has always used CE and different polyphenols such as resveratrol, astaxanthin, certain things. But what's talked about less is the niacinamide as an antioxidant, and that's more for mitochondria function. And if you look into functional medicine now, the like Dr. Mark Hymans of the world and what they're talking about from aging is really tapping into mitochondria. And so that's where like the B3 comes in, precursor for NAD. Lots of people are doing those NAD injections. There's CoQ10, all of those things you want to look into seriously and have a doctor advise you and understand that there's a lot of stuff that you have to do at the same time. You don't want to just take an NAD supplement. You have to think about it. But I'm excited to see kind of how the research evolves in that area, so because a lot of what you can apply to the internal body, we can apply to the skin. So I love that there's a lot of money going to research there. And, lastly, the biggest thing I want to stress and what I try to bring into these conversations and my consultations is the most important thing is strategy. You can go in so many different directions. You can buy so many different products or do so many different treatments, but you have to have a good strategy and understand, what is realistic for you? What are your goals? What are you working with? And what could be helpful in, achieving your goals? And so if you can make your strategy yourself, if you can find someone that you trust who's a specialist, they can help you create a strategy. But if you go into the skincare industry without a really good strategy, you probably won't achieve your goals and see the results.
And spend a lot of money.
Yes.
I agree. Been there.
Yeah. So that's my final point.
I have two last questions because actually what got this all started beyond me doing the C throughout pregnancy, because I couldn't do any form of retinol, it was actually my friend Britta who said, "You're so dry, Lacey. The best mask that I think you will love so much is the Marie Veronique mask, the micronutrient hydro mask." That's actually how I even got to the site. And I noticed you didn't put it in my regimen, probably just because we had this tight time. But what are your thoughts there for me using that mask? And if so, how often?
So I would use that. You could say once a week, you could do the probiotic exfoliation mask and then right after do a balancing hypotonic swipe and then a thick layer of the micronutrient hydro mask. So that contains a lot of different nutrients. It's really just meant to kind of reset the skin, support immune function of the skin, lots of requirements of the skin to be nourished and hydrated and moisturized. I like to sleep in it when I've been, during this postpartum period and I've been so dry, I've just been layering it on top of everything and sleeping with it. And that makes me feel less dry and really good.
So I could put that essentially over the retinol after, because I end up finding myself using a hydrosol and then putting on oil and shea butter, but I could essentially just put this on, let the retinol sit in for a bit and right before bed, put on the mask.
Yeah, totally. That's what I've been doing. Yeah. And that just adds like a little extra boost for those who need it. It's a really good one for plane travel, for like New York East Coast winters when you have an indoor heater. It's like not a mask where you're like, you take it off and you're like, oh my God, I'm ready to go to my red carpet event. But it's for the long game. You know that you're really maximizing the nutrient input to the skin and you are getting this kind of like glowy result. So I use it all the time. After I swim in the ocean every day, I put it on immediately after the ocean. That feels really good.
I do too. I swim every day. I should do that.
Yeah. It's in my bag.
So you, after the ocean, for instance, you'll do the tonic swipe and then put it on.
Yeah, exactly. And the ocean kind of acts like a tonic, but I keep the pre-probiotic mist and the micronutrient mask in my bag, and I usually like to hang at the beach for a minute afterwards. So I'll just do a little spritz, and I know that sounds really high maintenance, but it feels really good.
No, that's brilliant for somebody who wants to invest in this or who can. Like this is literally what I'm asking. So then as someone who's just been using like a geranium hydrosol, the pre-probiotic daily mist would then take place of that.
Yeah, and that's a little bit more complex than something like a geranium hydrosol. There's nothing wrong with that, but this has a lot of bacteria that's really important for the skin, and it does have those ingredients which will satisfy the requirements of the acid mantle so that your skin can balance that pH naturally, which is important. And after you get out of the ocean, it feels really tight and dry, and that mist kind of hydrates and soothes the skin.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at the micronutrient hydro mask, I use shea butter as my main sealer always, just because I'm literally so dry. Looking at it as more of that, that's how you would see it. Like you're kind of using it in place of all the places I use shea butter right now.
Yeah, totally. Because you're not getting that much from the shea butter. And there's like a little bit of an occlusive thing. So I understand that it feels good, but it's like this whole concept where if you're going to seal up the skin, just make sure that all the nutrients are under there.
Right. Got it. Okay. That makes sense. And when you swim, I'm so glad that you do this every day. You just use your SPF like 20, you let it sit in 15 minutes before, and then you swim. And then afterwards, you'll do the swipe if you need it. But obviously, you've pH balanced a little bit from the ocean. And then you'll actually do the prebiotic mist and then the mask.
Yeah, I use the Badger when I swim. So I do that, and then I swim, and then I come out, do mist, heavy layer of the mask. I might even like put a few drops of an oil, the protective day oil, something like that if I'm feeling really dry. And then, it takes a minute to massage in. And so make sure you get a really good heavy layer, and then it will, because of all the humectant properties, it'll kind of just go whoosh and suck into the skin.
Fantastic. This is brilliant. So grateful for your time. This has been the most educational podcast, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. Where can we find you? Obviously, where can we find Marie Veronique, and any last places to point us?
Honestly, please, if you ever have any question about skin or skin health, reach out to info@marieveronique.com. We're so happy to help you. You can find me there as well, or you can email Kristina at KristinaHoley.com. It's HOLEY, and I will try to get back to you that way. But probably the fastest way is info@marieveronique.com.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope it's helpful. If anything's confusing, reach out. I want everyone to be successful with their skin. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.